Well, I appreciate your getting the recording starting there, Frank, because I start the Charitable Roundtable with some high energy, and then after some of my best work, then I find, oh, we didn't record that. So at the heart of the matter, the Charitable Roundtable is a group of people that serve the nonprofit world. We either work for nonprofits or we are philanthropists and help in that way too. Today we have an amazing story with Bob Burg. He's the author of The Go-Giver, and I always think of this as my go-to book to give to someone if I'm coaching or mentoring them. So I've only got a few left right now, but back in about 2008, I was being mentored by Vern Dosh. He was his dad died of Parkinson's about 5 years before my dad died of Parkinson's, and he was my mentor for that process. And over the course of our work together, he gave me The Go-Giver. Well, I passed that volume along to someone else long ago, but it's been something that's been a go-to for me for years. And so I want to welcome everyone that is here today. Thank you for investing your morning with us. And today we're going to be doing a question and answer session with Bob Burg, the author of The Go-Giver, co-author of Go-Giver. And we presume positive intent. We are present as much as possible to be on your video, if you would, and we may, especially as appropriate, and then we connect for the good of all. I personally love the idea doing good anywhere does good everywhere. So my helping an organization that's not the organization that I mainly work for doesn't hurt Brave Hearts for Kids. It just makes the world better, and that helps our organization. So at this point, it's the time I call hearing all the voices. What I'd like to have everyone do is put into the chat your contact information, your LinkedIn, be contacted, and then if you brought a question for Bob, please put that in the chat as well. And then when we're finished with the question and answer session, we'll be hearing your voices once again as we seek to determine what was your key takeaway today? What did you learn? And what does that inspire you to commit to going forward? With that, man, it's time to get on with the show. And I'd like to turn the show over at this point to the founder of the Charitable Roundtable, Frank Agan, for the introduction. Frank?
Thanks, Brian. We have Bob's scheduled to be on at 11:45. We'll get him on then. I'll just kind of give you an overview for new people what the Charitable Roundtable is.
Okay.
This is just to let you know, this is a Q&A session for Bob. He's not necessarily presenting, but it'll be a Q&A session. And he'll go till 12:15, and then at 12:15, when he departs, we will have a conversation. If you please stick around as to how to implement some of these things. Just some background of the Charitable Roundtable. It was back in 2015. My kids were kind of rolling out of high school. I was very involved with their lives as they were in school, and I'm like, okay, I got to come up with something else to contribute time to. I just feel like I'm always better when I'm able to contribute to the community somehow. And I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to commit to this or commit to that. Why not try and commit to everything? And what my superpower is, what I'm known for, is connecting people and bringing together community. I have an organization, a for-profit organization. I don't talk about on here, and I'm not going to start now, but it's about bringing together small business people. And I thought, what about trying to apply that same concept to the not-for-profit world? So I reached out to a few people. One of them was Jim Bishop. I was connected to Jim. I started getting the word out, and it was January of 2015. We had a meeting at a little coffee shop, little breakfast place north of Gahanna, Ohio, New Albany, Ohio. And there were probably 4 or 5 of us, and we sat around and we just, I told everyone, I know what your biggest concern is. It's money. That's the biggest issue. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want people to feel like they're going to give up their best donors or their best secrets. Let's talk about the other issues that you face, and let's really try and help one another. What I learned in time is that, you know what, most not-for-profits really are okay with sharing about what's going on in their funding world. In fact, when the COVID lockdown hit, there were a lot of people who were very open about, hey, here's a place to get money. But at any rate, there were 4 or 5 of us. We met, we talked, we went around, we had a great exchange. I don't know that I added anything but facilitation, because I don't run a not-for-profit. But the question was, do you want to continue to do this? And the answer was yes. Let's continue. This was very worthwhile. And the Charitable Roundtable was born, and it was the second Friday of every month, with few exceptions. We get to the Easter holiday. If Good Friday falls on the second Friday, we'll move it forward or back. But we've continued to have these, what I call, gatherings of not-for-profits, leaders in not-for-profits. It was primarily done in person. Until March of 2015, of 2020. And if I have to tell you what happened in March of 2020, I don't know where you were, but the COVID lockdown hit, and it was a very scary time. I remember the Charitable Roundtable. It was March of 2020, and things were just starting to the buzz was starting. We had a location, and the location told us not to come. And we would have in-person meetings of 30, 40 people, and they said, don't come. And we had to scramble to find another location. And we didn't have 30 or 40, we may have had 15 people. And obviously everything locked down at that point, but we persevered on, figured out this Zoom thing. For a while, we tried to do a hybrid meeting, and that was me hauling a lot of equipment, to do a remote Zoom call. And we'd have 5 people in the audience, and like, you know what, let's just surrender to this. I was a little beside myself, and I remember Mary Jenkins saying, it's going to be okay. This is we'll figure it out. It's going to be okay. And in retrospect, it's been more than okay, because rather than just having people on from Columbus, Ohio, I have people on from all over. We've had people from the UK, we've had people from Canada. It's just kind of a neat collection of individuals. Brian Reinbold's in Rockford, Illinois. Phil Goodhart's out on the East Coast. And it's, rather than me telling people, hey, you need to do a charitable roundtable in your neck of the woods, I could just invite them into ours. So we have been, we continue to do this, and we have a program set for, I think, the next 4 or 5 months. But at any rate, to introduce our speaker today, Bob Burg. I met Bob Burg, I want to say it was either 1997 or 98. Somehow or another, he got hoodwinked into doing a speaking engagement in, it was January, in Youngstown, Ohio, technically Girard, Ohio. I was at a Holiday Inn, and he came in to speak at the organization that I now own and run. And I was just totally blown away by Bob, and just the message he had. And the organization I run it's a networking organization, and we're all about giving, about helping other people. And if you want things in this life, you need to give things. And to me, it was a novel concept, and to be introduced to somebody who really embodied that, really thought about it. It was very impressive to me. And then I've certainly followed Bob and what Bob was doing. I've read his book. I read it 10 times. I bought a bunch of his copies of his books, and whenever he came to Columbus, I would try to get out and go to his program. Well, there was a point a few years ago, where I got a message on LinkedIn, a suggestion that I had to connect with somebody. You should connect with Bob Burg. I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens here. So I sent him a connection. Hey, Bob, I don't know if you remember me, but you spoke here and blah, 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 blah. And he connected with me. I was like, all right, that was easy. And so right at that point in time, I was nearing the 100th episode of my podcast. And I'm like, what do you do on your 100th episode? It's got to be something special. Like, I'm going to ask this Bob guy if he'd be on my podcast. And so I did, figuring how I'm just going to put myself out there. If he says no, I'll just go in the corner and cry and nobody will know. I'm kidding, but he said yes right away. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is so gracious. And we did an episode. It was my 100th episode. When we were done, his question to me was this: how else can I help you? And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, I'm really trying to take this podcast in a different direction and really getting quality people like you. If you know of somebody, send them my way. Within 48 hours, I was introduced to 5 or 6 other people that I could get on my podcast. And what I quickly found out about Bob Burg is, well, he's written this book, The Go-Giver. It's a great book. If you don't have it, not having this book is like not seeing the movie The Shawshank Redemption. It's like, you're kidding me. You've never read The Go-Giver? You need to read The Go-Giver. And that's why I buy lots of copies and I hand them out. And Bob gets 30 cents every time a copy sells. But what I found out about Bob, in addition to writing this wonderful book about giving, about generosity, is that he walks his talk. And through my podcasting travels, journeys, I've met a lot of people who've written books on networking and talked about the notion of giving, and they don't all walk their talk. And Bob does. And Bob's just a very gracious person. He's involved in his community. He totally embodies this story here. So I've already taken 3 minutes of his time. So Bob, welcome. Thanks for doing this Q&A for us. I know we have questions. Mary, you want to kick it off with? I thought your question was really good as we were kicking around before we got started today.
Yeah, let's do that.
Thank you, Frank, for that wonderful, amazing introduction. That is very kind. And you're one of life's good people.
Thank you. Mary, you're muted.
Mary, go ahead.
I'm muted. So, hi, Bob. I'm so glad to have you here. Frank could have gone on and on, I'm sure, because I've done my research to find out about you as well. The book is phenomenal, and we do have questions. But before I ask you, the question that I had, I guess it's the first question. What moved you to say yes to be here for the Charitable Roundtable?
There was really nothing in particular. I mean, if someone feels I can add value, and then, I'm usually fine to say yes. So I can't say there was anything, earth-shattering. I appreciate you asking. I'm honored to be here. It's a worthy cause and a great group. So it's really my pleasure.
Well, thank you. And you answered the way that I was hoping you would answer. That if we saw that there was a way for you to give value, because prior to you coming on, we had talked about this space being the place where nonprofits come together and we get information and throw ideas about things that we deal with. But talking about the subject of the book being the Go-Giver, talking about the 5 laws and the law of value. And so for you to say that if you think that somebody that you could give value, that is so tremendous. And so in reading the book, I read the section about giving value, and it was mainly from a sales position. But my question is, how can we apply those laws for the nonprofit space? Because when you have a nonprofit, so I represent someone that is the founder of a nonprofit. So I work with nonprofits every day. We have people on here that are board members of nonprofits, that are volunteers that support nonprofits and things like that. And so we each have different roles. But my question is, how can we apply the laws specifically to the work of nonprofitism?
Well, if you work within a nonprofit, then I'm going to say it's almost the same as working for a for-profit. And here's why, in the approach. Because you have people, well, let's put it this way. When I speak at sales conferences, one of the first things I say to a group of sales professionals is this: nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet. Okay. They're not going to buy from you because you need the money. And they're not even going to buy from you because you're a nice person. They're going to buy from you or otherwise do business with you because they believe that they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And, it's the exact same when it comes to a nonprofit. You are having to raise money from people by asking people to, dig into their bank account and transfer money from that account, okay, to your cause. They are going to do this because they believe they're going to benefit from it. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not that they're going to necessarily benefit financially. Now, there's some people who are going to, donate because they believe somehow it's going to come back to them, and that's fine if that's why they do it. But that's one person. There's some people who donate because they want to see their name on a wall or be listed in a booklet or something. That's why they're doing it. Okay. There's some people who it's just so aligned with their value system to support that particular cause that by donating, they're living congruently with their values, thus increasing their own personal happiness. In fact, if you notice, each and every one of the three I just mentioned donated because they believed in some way it would increase their happiness. So as salespeople, because if you're selling them on the idea of why they should donate, as salespeople, you have one job, overall job, and that's to communicate value. What is value? Value is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, organization, nonprofit, cause, etc., that brings so much of that worth or value to them that they will willingly exchange their money for that? Okay, for that increase in happiness, which is their ultimate benefit, which is the ultimate value you're providing. Now, like anyone in sales, your job, in a sense, right, is to discover their needs, their wants, their desires, their reasons, right? And then through your nonprofit, help them to realize those. So really, it's the same with anyone. It's just a matter of the value that the other person receives through donating to your nonprofit is just a different type of value than, let's say, the person who buys a copying machine because, they want to be able to make copies or something like that. It's just a different type of value.
It's interesting that you say that. I had shared that I'm a firm believer that and I say this, it doesn't matter how good you can sell if you don't know what motivates people to buy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love that. And you can't sell well unless you know what motivates people to buy. And it's funny because I remember what one of my old mentors, Harry Brown, used to say that people always ask, well, how do I motivate this person to buy? And his answer was always, You don't motivate them to buy. They're already motivated to buy. Your job is to simply discover what it is that motivates them.
Yeah.
You know, one of the central ideas in the book is shifting from getting to giving, right? I mean, and you've done this talk for years, or talked on this topic for years. How do people begin that shift? Because we get out there and everybody's got quotas, right? Everybody's got, whether even not for profit, you need to do this. And so it's this kind of get mindset, and you're really advocating shifting to giving. What are some thoughts on shifting that?
So I think and I love that question. I think it goes to understanding why it's in your best interest to make that shift in focus. Okay. So if we go back to, remember, no one's going to buy because you need the money or because you have a quota, right? So if that's the case, you know that if you lead with what's in it for you, they're probably not buying, right? And so I like to use the example of, let's say this is just a regular sales conversation. You're the prospect, I'm the salesperson, and I really need the money, right? So, this go-giver stuff is fine once I have the money, but right now I need the money. I can't bother with what's important to that person. Okay. So I'm going to go in there, and I might ask some questions because I've been trained to do so, but I'm not really listening deeply to your answers because I'm more concerned about the money that I need. And I'm maybe asking questions and listening so that I can sharp angle you into a close, but I'm not really caring about you so much. And I think that transfers a little bit, but be that as it may, when you have an objection, I'll answer it, but I'm a little defensive about it because your objection is standing in the way of my money. And instead of digging deep and really understanding the root of the objection, I'm just answering the expression of it, which probably isn't even the true objection. So it's not really very satisfying to you. I'm closing early and I'm closing often because, well, again, I need to get that money. Yeah. Okay. So by the time I ask you for the, at the end of the presentation, are you more likely or less likely to buy from me right now? And the chances are probably less likely. Now, let's say I'm same salesperson, and I still need the money and all these things, but what I'm going to do is I'm not going to deny my self-interest. I'm not a big believer in denying truth. And one element of human nature is we are all self-interested creatures. It's how our ancestors passed along their genes for, so no, we're not going to deny our self-interest. But what we're going to do, as a professional does, is we're going to put our self-interest to the side. We're going to temporarily suspend our self-interest. And I'm going to focus on you. And my goal is to provide you with a great experience, whether you buy it from me or not. So I'm going to ask you questions, but now I'm really listening with full intent, with my full body. I am looking to understand your reasoning. I want to know your needs, your wants, your desires. And even after you answer, I'm not going to accept that I understand what you meant, because I realize we come from different sets of beliefs. And so I'm going to tactfully dig deeper and ask you to clarify, to make sure that only when I know that I know what you mean, am I going to connect the benefits of my product or service with your needs, wants, and desires. Now, when you have an objection, I'm going to welcome that. And I'm going to assure you that it's great that you bring it up, because you need to feel comfortable with this process for us to be able to work together. So let's look at really what that question and concern is all about. So we're going to go deep, and we're going to get to the root of it, and we're going to work through it together with caring and empathy in order to advance the process. Now, by the time I ask you for the order, I'm simply asking you to take action on something you've already told me that you want to do. Now, but more than anything, you know that I have your best interest and your well-being at heart. are you more likely or less likely to want to do business with me right now? And I'd say the answer is probably more likely. Now, when we can share this, including that story, which I welcome anyone to share that example with someone who doesn't quite yet understand why they should make that shift in focus, okay, they come to realize that the most self-interested thing they could possibly do is to suspend their self-interest and focus totally on the other person. Now, what happens is two things. One is if they'll start doing that, they'll begin to sell much more, right? But the other thing is they'll start feeling better about themselves. Okay, because as human beings, we do have it is also part of human nature to want to make a difference in the lives of others, to want to bring value to the world around us. And as entrepreneurs and salespeople and nonprofit people, we tend to do that through, our product, our service, our mission, or whatever it happens to be. So this is why having a great relationship with that person who you're trying to teach this to is so important. Frank, as you've heard me say forever, all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to, and will also have to say, allow themselves to be taught and influenced by those people they know, like, and trust. So when we have that kind of relationship, we're in a much better position to share that kind of idea with someone who doesn't yet know.
Yeah, know, like, and trust is powerful. And I remember the first time I really kind of understood that, because they don't teach you that in college, right? They don't teach you that out in the working world. But then you start to realize it's like, oh my gosh, it is so true. It is so true. Somebody else have a question? Brian Reinbold, do you have a question?
Yeah, Bob, I was curious to know, you'd mentioned Harry Brown, but who is your inspiration, and who is your mentor?
Yeah, I mean, my life mentor would be my dad. I was very blessed to have two great parents who set a fantastic example for me. My dad and I are a lot alike, in that, he was really someone who, and for him, it was much more natural that he just really had a genuine caring for others and was able to communicate that. He always had an interest in other people. It didn't matter who he was talking to. It was, he always made people feel so genuinely good about themselves. And so he's someone who I tried to model. I don't think I've ever done it as well as he did, but I try. And so I'd say that, he would be my main role model in that regard. But I've also been very, very fortunate through the years to get to know people and read their books and watch them speak and watch their videos, listen to their audios, and, learn from people, who just are wonderful teachers and who I could learn so much from. And, my biggest breakthrough was when I was in my, I think it was my late 20s, when I realized that, pretty much most of the stuff I thought I knew, I was absolutely so wrong. And it was time to really go to school, and that's, and that's about the time I began in sales. And I started reading books and, going to seminars and opening my mind to to these great teachings. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I'm very, very fortunate in that regard to, first have the parents I had, but then have so many teachers along the way that I could learn from vicariously.
When you say, it reminded me of something my dad used to say, because he was one of my great mentors. He said, "It's what you learn after you know everything that really counts."
Absolutely. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
Isn't that true? So true.
Yeah. Bob, can you recommend any specific actions or exercises that certainly readers of your book, if you haven't bought the book, buy the book. It's better when you buy multiple copies, by the way. But any exercises that people can undertake to further internalize and apply the the 5 principles in the book?
Well, as in the story, Pindar, the main mentor, had Joe, the protege. In fact, the one condition for mentorship was that Joe had to apply each and every one of those laws before he went to sleep that night. Didn't have to do it perfectly. That wasn't the point, but he had to take action. That's why a lot of people think the opposite of a go-giver is a go-getter, but that's not so. We love go-getters because go-getters take action. Go-getters get things done. Everyone in this room, we're all business people, and we know that you can have the nicest thoughts, best ideas, greatest of intent, but unless action's put into the mix, nothing's going to happen. It can't happen. So we would say the opposite of a go-giver is a go-taker. That's that person who feels almost entitled to take without having added value to the person, to the process, to the situation. And they tend to be frustrated because they rarely achieve the type of sustainable. And even when they do, they're typically not very happy people in many ways. And it's difficult to be a go-taker and really succeed sustainably because you don't really have anyone on your side. So we say be a go-getter and a go-giver, just not a go-taker. But so going back to your question, what we would say is take the different laws, just like Joe, and look to apply them right away. For example, in terms of value, how can I add value today to someone's life, right? How can I, with each person I meet, come across, whether I've known them for a long time or just meeting them, how do I add value to them? Now, remember, this is important because we talked about earlier, value being the relative worth or desirability of a thing to the end user, which means value is always in the eyes of the beholder. So it's not what we believe is of value to someone or what we think they should value. It's what they value. And we can only know that through, again, asking questions, doing research, listening, and so forth. So, because we all come at life from our own different points of view, we tend to think other people see the world the same way as we do. And it's simply not true. And so, you can add value to someone's life when you're let's say you're in an initial conversation with this person by simply asking them questions about themselves. Feel good questions, right? They're not salesy, they're not prospecty, they're not intrusive, they're not invasive, but they just make a person feel genuinely good to answer them. It's asking a person, how did you get started in the so-and-so business, which is a question most people are never asked by people. And then asking maybe, what do you enjoy most about your work, which again just engenders really good feelings. What I call the one key question is, how can I know if someone I'm speaking with is a good prospective client for you? Right. So it's asking questions that really bring value to another human being. It might also be that, that you can connect a person with someone else who can benefit them. It might be you can refer someone who's going to benefit. So whatever it is, as you're interacting with people, how can you be of value? And that might be nothing more than just simply helping that person feel genuinely good about themselves. When it comes to the law of compensation, which is about your reach, your impact, well, what can you do to touch more people's lives? When it comes to influence, your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first, not in a self-sacrificial way or doormatty way, not at all. It's just understanding, when we talk about all things being equal, right? People will do business with, refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. Well, it's understanding that there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you and others by actually going from that I focus or me focus to that other focus. Right? Looking to, as Sam, one of the mentors in the story, advised Joe, make your win all about the other person's win. Well, how can you do that with this person who you're talking to? So I would say the actions to take are basically making it about other people and just asking yourself, with everything I say, everything I do, everything I tweet, everything I post, everything I share, is it about to add value to another person's life? And if the chances are yes, we'll go right ahead, and if not, rethink it.
That's wonderful.
Bob,
no, go ahead.
Bob,
Brian, go ahead.
it seems that over the past few years, I've noticed a propensity for people to put their time, talent, energy, and love into what they do. And what you describe has a lot to do with putting love into it. It seems to me. Does that?
Oh, I think so. And again, it's you know, I think as the world, there's you know, that part of life is doing those things that, you know, bring you joy. There's, you know, there used to be that treacherous dichotomy, you know, do you want to, you know, are you going to work at a job you don't like, or are you going to, you know, do something that you and, you know, and make money at that job, or are you going to do something you love but not make money? Well, that's a false dilemma. It's the unnecessary use of the word or, right? It should be an and. You do something you love, that you're passionate about, that you feel brings value to the world, and you make a lot of money doing it. That's a good
The law
thing.
of attraction, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mary, did you have a final question for Bob?
Well, before that, Frank had something he wanted to say, but yes, I do. I have
No,
a
go
comment.
go right ahead. That's okay.
No, Mary, go ahead.
Okay. So, in talking, because I'm thinking about the laws, like I said, from a nonprofit perspective, there was one that I had, that I wondered if any other people connected to nonprofits deal with, and that is dealing with the law of compensation. Oftentimes, when we lead nonprofits, you know, we're quick to say no, 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 that we think that we have to give so much of ourselves and not receive anything in return. Can you speak on that from the law of compensation, from how it can benefit the nonprofit being able to say yes?
Well, I kind of see that as from the law of receptivity, because the law of receptivity is what says that you breathe out, but you also have to breathe in, right? It's not one or the other. You know, the law of compensation is all about how many lives you impact. If you impact a whole lot of lives, you're gonna, you know, obviously create that context for the money to come in, but you've got to be able to tap into the law of receptivity. And
So
you've
they
got to
go
allow
hand in
yourself
hand.
to receive. They do. And here's the thing, that remember, the world itself has given us not mixed messages, but very negative messages, very anti-prosperity messages. We see it, we hear it, we read about it all the time. Okay. So someone in a nonprofit is almost like the perfect person to buy into that false dilemma. I'm either doing something good for the world or making money. Now, even if the making money part is just even for the nonprofit itself, it's still, you're having to receive. You're having to allow yourself to receive, right? And so what we've got to do is really, you know, understand that all that is doing is holding us back from doing the good work that we're trying to do. And remember that if people are going to give to the nonprofit that we're representing, they're doing it for their reasons. Okay. It may be charity. It's something that they're not getting a direct monetary benefit from, maybe. But remember, they're doing it because ultimately they feel better about themselves for having done so than having not done so. So if you're not allowing yourself and your nonprofit to receive this donation, you're actually doing a disservice to the person who wants to give. So I think that's really how we have to look at it. And I also think it's a reason why it's important to make a study of prosperity. You know, there are so many people like Randy Gage and Ellen Rogan and Ken Honda, the late Bob Proctor, people like Sharon Lecter. But you know, there's some great people out there who speak and write and post and blog, you know, on prosperity and abundance. And I think it's important that we subscribe to their information and listen to it and take it in and read it, because again, the yucky, negative, anti-prosperity messages come at us from all around. The garbage comes into our head constantly. So we need to seek out that good, healthy information that we can put both into our brains and into our hearts.
Bob, that's
Thank
that's fantastic, and wonderful having you with us here today. I know your time is limited, but what do you have upcoming? What kind of projects are going on for you, and how can we find out about that and get involved in some way?
Well,
Yes.
we have our Go Giver Success Alliance, which is basically it's a weekly online group mentorship. And we also, Kathy, my business partner, and I, we have a what we call the Beyond the Mastermind event retreats. We have these actually here in Jupiter, Florida. So those are a lot of fun. But really, you can find out everything at burg.com. And while you're there, you can subscribe to my daily impact email, which I send out Monday through Friday mornings.
I get
Burg.com. I think everyone can remember that.
yeah,
Yeah,
but-
BURG. Yeah.
BURG. Yeah. I get his daily newsletter. It is it's really powerful. I mean, it's a 30-second read. It's very impactful.
Fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank
Bob,
you.
as always, thank you so much for your time. You walk the talk. I keep telling you that. I interviewed Ricky Powell this week on my podcast and Ken Rashawn, and they both said, tell you hello. So
People, thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate being with you, and I just wish you all the best. Keep up the great work.
thank you.
Thank you so very
Bye-bye.
much.
Thanks.
Be well.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Back to you, Brian Reinbold.
Well, thank you. Man, that was a treat. You know, he mentioned Ellen Rogan in his last comments, and Ellen is somebody I got to introduce her at an NSA event one time, and she connected me with some really amazing people for my radio show back in the day. She had described herself as an abundance advocate, and I thought I like that idea. Be an abundance advocate, right? And that's a mindset that we can have and say, because you know, like I say, we live in the best time in the history of the world, the best place in the history of the world. It's good. Actually, it's better than good. It's great, and it's getting better, and it's getting better fast, and it's exciting to be able to be here and experience this. But you know what? It's exhilarating to be able to be part of making it happen. And I realize that not everyone sees it that way. Not everyone has that same experience. Certainly not every family that goes through childhood cancer has the kind of outcome that we'd like to have them have, not like to have them see them have. But it's my place to bring the optimism. Maybe it's our place here as leaders in the charitable community to bring the optimism and to show people this power, this strength that can come from within, that helps to make this happen. Because man, it is exhilarating to be part of making it happen, to be making the world a better place to be. And
You are right, Brian. It definitely is. It definitely is. I do have a question for everyone. And because this is something we didn't ask at the very beginning, but I'd like to know who has not read the book. If you can raise your digital hand or raise your hand, if you have not read the book. Okay. So there's quite a few people that have not read the book. And so in the fact that you have not read the book, then even though we share the laws, it would be beneficial for you to get an understanding of the book. And so the book, The Go-Giver, is a parable that was written, and it's about what happens between a mentor by the name of Pindar and a gentleman by the name of Joe. Joe goes through a series of activities and events to help him understand this new way of thought of being a go-giver. And within the book, within the book, there are listed the 5 laws. And specifically, the 5 laws are the law of value, the law of compensation, the law of influence, the law of authenticity, and the law of receptivity. And each one of those laws has a powerful message, which traditionally is for the salespeople. But in reading it, we definitely saw a benefit for those of us that are in the nonprofit space, because we may not have a product that we sell, but we have a vision that we're selling, communicating to others and wanting them to get involved, whether it's by monetary donations of their time, donation of their talent, even being able to help spread the word, just so many different ways. And so I just wanted to take the moment to see who had not read the book, like understanding the importance of why we had Bob be the speaker for this month. This is the month of November. And we know it's a month of Thanksgiving because we have Thanksgiving this month. And so the fact that we are talking about, getting our families and our lives ready for being Thanksgiving and being thankful for the opportunities that we have, being thankful for the relationships that we have, being thankful for the experiences that we have, all those things were important. And so when Bob Burg was mentioned about being a go-giver, and being a go-giver is different ways of really being thankful, we saw that it would be beneficial for this group to get an idea and an understanding. And so my reason for asking who didn't know is to go over that information, so that way when we talk about it, you at least have an idea of like, oh, the reason that they're talking about this is for this reason. So I wanted to ask that question.
I want to throw out to the group what kind of takeaways people took from this.
Yeah, that's
how might it impact you?
I think just reiterating what I already know about being a good listener and an active listener, and that can help in so many ways in life, to really understand the other person that you're speaking with.
Frank,
Diane?
one thing that I appreciated from Bob was he was saying there's a difference between a go-getter and a go-taker. And I'm glad he clarified that, because none of us want to be a go-taker or the recipient of a go-taker. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, I thought that was good too.
Yeah, that go taker, that's someone that's never has enough.
Yeah,
There just isn't enough.
I did appreciate Frank.
Gary Brown.
Hi, thanks. About talking about what other people value, what they need, what their desires and motivations are. It's always good to continue to remind yourself, because, and I'll fall victim to this as well, I'm so focused on what I'm going to say next, I'm really actually not listening to what the person is saying. So I end up stammering, and then just whatever, I'm just going to focus on what I want to say. And that's exactly the opposite of what you want to do. You really want to make that dialogue, understanding what they really want, need, and desire. Those objections, don't take them personally, but have them opportunity for further conversation.
Jerry, doesn't it just light up your heart when somebody asks you a question that is a follow-up to something that you've been talking about, that indicates that they were listening?
They're actually active listening, right? For sure. That is so important.
Phil, go ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't help but smile, Jerry, when you were talking about this. This is one of these classic head versus heart problems. I know what I need to be doing, but my nature, my body sometimes just prevents me from doing it. So, the only thing, well, I'll tell you, just as a quick aside, when I have one-on-ones, I usually use a note taker recorder thing. The one I use is called Fathom. And what I love about it is if you talk for more than, I think, a minute or 90 seconds, a little thing pops up saying monologue and how long you've been talking. And it's a fantastic reminder because no matter, no matter our intentions, sometimes you need some help.
Thank you for keeping that under 60 seconds, Phil.
Yeah.
And Nancy had her hand up here in the real world.
Yes. Hello, everybody. It's very nice to be here. I represent something that is for the heart. Music, our idea of bringing people together through the heart of music. We just finished a competition. We've been active 3 years, and we can't get funds from any corporation so far. So what I would like to, I'm going to buy the book, but I would like to know how to ask, because so far I don't have a person who, we are all idealists, but I don't have the go-getter. I have all the givers and they are getting tired. That's all.
Right.
So, Miss Nancy, your takeaway is that you're basically asking a question. You want to know how to ask the question. Is that?
I want to know how to get some money, because everybody so far is giving, all the artists. We have had 2 composition competitions. We have put all the work there. The only ones getting any funds are the people who participated in the competitions. But we cannot, we don't have a grant writer who knows how to ask.
Okay. Where are you calling from?
I'm in Maryland, in Reisterstown. We started the organization in 2020 during the pandemic.
Wow.
It was a way to reach out to people with hope through a message of love with music. Then we created a competition, and it's basically bringing, inspiring people to create music from their own folk traditions, because I believe if you know, when you know the essence of a person, and it comes through music, it's very powerful, and it's a way of making peace, creating peace through music.
So, Brian and Frank, what I'm hearing is that there may be room for having a roundtable discussion on how to ask, ways in which to ask for donations.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a good topic.
Sounds like a good topic.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, we'll certainly preview what's upcoming.
Yeah.
But
well, I can tell you what's upcoming in December.
Well, what a tee off. Go ahead.
Thanks for that segue, Frank.
Well, did anybody else have any questions?
Yeah.
Or any other comments? Can we make sure we get through everyone before?
Yeah, I noticed that someone had a question here and it didn't get addressed. It was from Peter. Do people and this, I know this is for Bob and we're running out of time, Peter, I apologize. Is he still here? Yeah, he's still here.
Yep.
Do people necessarily know what they personally value? I think that's a very good question.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I guess there's 2, I guess, do they know or do they realize, right? I think we all know that, I know I'm hungry. Do I realize that I want pizza? Kind of a difference between different, I don't know.
That's a given, Frank.
Yeah, I always want pizza. You're right. What kind of pizza? How do we help them discover their true held values? Yeah, those are great questions. I don't know. Somebody wants.
We can put them to. We can send them to Bob and ask him. Does he have? Does he have an answer?
I think there's one of the greatest pain points in our society right now is not knowing who we are. You know, and not being aware of who we are.
Lorraine, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I had a question I'll throw out to all of you.
All right, Lauren.
How do you know when to, if you're investing in a relationship and giving a lot and feel like it's one way? So let's say you're an accountant or a lawyer and you've got this great prospect. They really fit the kind of organization that you serve well, and you meet with them, you talk with them from time to time, and they keep calling you up. Can I just pick your brain for a quick answer on accounting or on law or something? But they never give you the contract to actually do a job for them. Is there any stage of when you say, I'm gonna stop giving? I mean, or is that taboo to even ask that?
Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is years
I've
ago
got
when
an
I was,
example.
years ago when I was practicing law, and attorneys work a lot together because there are certain clients that you can't work with. Like if you have a conflict of interest, if I represent a husband in a divorce, I can't represent the wife, right? I can't represent, there are conflicts. So we refer there, and then there's expertise where, you know what, I'm not gonna tackle this because it's a quick path to malpractice because I don't know what I'm doing. Well, there was a particular attorney that I was referring business to, and he did a lot of work with DUI, driving under the influence. And I didn't do any kind of courtroom work like that. I didn't really have an interest in it, but I had clients that would come to me, I had business clients, and they would say, you know, hey, Johnny, one of my main driver was out this weekend, got pulled over, and he's got this potential DUI. Do you know an attorney that could represent him? And I would always pass it off to this particular attorney. And I never really worried about it too much because I'm serving my client, right? My client's happy that I got Johnny back on the road, if you will. But at one point I was sitting and meeting with this other attorney, and he thanked me for all I was doing for him, and let me know that, you know what, I just want to let you know I'll never refer you because I feel I can do everything that you do. And I didn't care up until that point. I wasn't keeping score up until that point. And I never said anything to him, but I never referred him to anybody else either. But it didn't, I just found somebody else to give to. That's all. I didn't stop giving. I just like, okay, this guy's a go taker. You know, he's just taking. I'm just not going to associate myself with him. So my answer to your question is no, you never stop giving. You just maybe change who you're giving to and find somebody new. That's what I did. I don't know, Mary, your commentary.
So my example is, so I've been in the nonprofit space for 17 years. Majority of the people that know me know that I started not knowing anything about the nonprofit space. And after 17 years of becoming international and doing what we do and help people cross with that, I kind of know what I'm doing now. And there are people that reach out to me on a regular basis, asking questions. And I don't mind. However, there comes a point in time when you're asking is now we need to have some type of agreement or some type of arrangement. I met a woman recently who she swore up and down she was a 501c3, but she didn't know her nonprofit. She didn't know she didn't know the basics that you should know if you are a nonprofit founder. And so I was in front of her and I said, well, let me check real quick because I knew what to do to find out. And come to find out, she was not what she thought she was. And I told her I would be willing to commit 1 hour to help her understand what she really is and give her the steps of what she needed to do in order to become what she wanted to be. I gave her the hour, but then she keeps calling, asking more and more. At this point, we need to have, because I do nonprofit coaching. And so we need to have an arrangement. And so I put a boundary in place of what I'm willing to give. And then after that, and I'm willing to give to anybody. If you're in the nonprofit space, I love you. I'm willing to help you. for a period of time, because there comes a point in time when you're taking, as Frank said, you become a go-taker. You're taking away from my time to be able to do what I'm doing, because you want me to help you with what you're doing. When if we can change the relationship, then it's a win-win benefit for us both. And that ultimately you want a win-win when you're dealing with people. Because I mean, this, like, even with the roundtable, there's no cost to be part of the roundtable. But with the Charitable Roundtable, we want people to not only come and listen, but also give their input. And definitely when we're putting the word out there that we have an event, for our next monthly meeting, to help spread the words, that way we can have the people here. It becomes a win-win, and not just I'm coming and I'm taking and I'm sitting and I'm gleaning from the information, but I'm not sharing with anyone else. So setting a boundary of what you're willing to do, and then making the shift from there, that can support you as well. But I like what Frank did, because I would do that too.
And
sounds like another segue into our next monthly meeting here.
Well, hang on. What I did was totally subconscious, right? It wasn't this I wasn't I don't know. It's just like, I got to move on here. It was almost like instinctual. It's like, I can keep pouring into this, and I'm going to be worse off by doing this. I need to really protect myself. And I don't know that the next person really gave me anything either, but at least there was the hope that somebody cared about me. Somebody, appreciated it. Right. So anyhow.
Yeah. But for somebody to tell you, like, I'm not going to send anybody to you because I do the same thing you do. That's crazy. Even if they thought that way, I wouldn't actually say it. I wouldn't verbalize it to you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that happened. They're lost. Yeah, they're lost.
I'm glad it happened, right? Because it's, whatever. So anyhow, but this is a perfect segue for talking about next month and beyond.
Next month. Okay. Hey, next month is our guest will be Daniel Gutierrez. He is New York Times best-selling author of a book called Radical Mindfulness, and he is one of my best friends that I've never met live. He's runs a retreat in Peru now, but he was very successful in business. And I dropped a little YouTube video into the chat. It's a mindfulness gratitude video that Daniel does. We're going to be on the topic of gratitude. It's kind of continuing the theme here, because I suppose about 10 years ago, I was working with my coach, Rebecca Riggs, out of Berkeley, California. And I said, I suppose we're going to be setting goals now, because it was Thanksgiving time. And she said, well, that's something that we should get to. But before we set goals, let's look back on what we've accomplished, what you're grateful for, and what you can appreciate in others that have helped you get here. And so that became the basis of what I think of as my Thanksgiving retreat each year. And I want to share some of that. And Daniel will be a terrific program. I know you're going to love him because I do. And you're going to enjoy that. So please plan to join us same time, December 8th, always the second Friday. And then, Mary, did you want to say anything about January program?
No, I'll wait till December.
Okay. Then,
I was going to do that.
Frank, you want to say something about February program?
Well, February, we have Jim Bishop on. Jim Bishop's going to be talking about planned giving, using, there's Jim clapping.
Yeah, there's clapping. There's Jim.
Yeah, Jim is at a not-for-profit conference. So he's off sharpening his saw, which we really appreciate. But we're going to talk about planned giving, just different ideas. We had a great conversation last month about endowments. And a lot of times people think with respect to endowments that you need $1 million. I'll get an endowment when I have $1 million. And we really got the notion that you can start on the path to that $1 million today. Right.
That
So
was Jerry Brown, by the way, that had our
Yeah.
program this month. It was a dang good program, Jerry.
Jim, you want to chime in on your program? No? Okay. Oh, here he comes.
Well, I will say, since you went ahead and told February, Frank, I will tell January. My goodness, you roped me in. So in January, we're kicking the year off with board development. So nonprofits, we know we can love our boards and we can love our boards less, but we need to have them because in order to be a 501c3, you have to have at least 3 people on your board, and understanding the do's and don'ts of boardism. Woo, wait. That's a great way to start the year.
Oh, she froze. Or I froze.
Experience of nonprofit life between the Better Business Bureau and then his private business now.
Don't say guru. Don't say guru.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nancy. Yep.
Well, this has been a highlight of the year, Frank. Thank you, Barry. Thank you. Been working with Frank and Mary to make sure these things go well each month, and it's fun. I think, you know, I don't know, Mary, if you want to maybe go with something, wear something white next time, we'd have this like little really all-American look going on here, you know?
Now, if you had asked me yesterday, I could have, because I sure did have a white shirt on.
That's right.
Yeah. But I have to do this. So I'm going to, normally I will stay on until 1 o'clock, but I'm currently in New York City. I was here for a funeral and I have a flight to catch back to Ohio. And so if it would be okay, I'm asking everyone, as well as Brian and Frank, to bid me adieu as I go to catch my flight.
Go for it, Mary. Thank you. Go ahead, Mary. I did want to say to everybody that Mary,
Travel well, be well.
Yeah, Mary gets all the credit for today because she's the one who, I know Bob, I never thought to reach out to him, never had the courage to, and she just did it. We talked about it, and 15 minutes later I got a text. I just talked to him, he's lined up. I'm like, okay, I feel embarrassed.
Yeah,
she did it. So kudos to her.
Yeah, you know what? There's something Earl Nightingale said, and he was one of my great mentors. He said, the higher you go in any organization of value, the nicer the people become. And it's maybe a little counterintuitive, but they didn't become nice because of their high position.
Yeah.
They got to their high position because they're good people.
Yeah. So
it's not always true, but I'd take it to the bank.
Yeah, no. I think there's a lot to it. If you're not there is a distribution. I'll put it in the chat. If you want to get in the distribution, hang on here. I'm trying to do things and think at the same time, or talk and think at the same. Here is, if you use this, you can register, and then we send out reminders throughout the month and what's going on in the next month. So if you're not on that, go ahead and take it and get your email in there. We only send out like 4 or 5, so it's not like you're going to get spammed or pitched or anything. It's just like, this is what we got coming, put it on your calendar. And we've been trying to record these, so they're up on YouTube somewhere. We'll get that link out. I've seen them.
Yep.
So.
And help us promote it. You know, just if you liked what you saw today, you know, let other people know about it. You know, everybody bring one more. Spread the word.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm the fan lady, the one with the fan showing constantly up there.
Yeah.
I'm doing 3 things at the same time. I put oil in my hair, I'm working, and I'm listening to the Zoom. So I figured you guys would rather see a fan than my head, but that's what nonprofit's about, isn't it? But I want to say thank you so much. And I did order all 3 of the books, actually.
Okay.
And I'm excited, but I wanted to know, are all of the meetings Zoom, or do you have any in person?
I haven't done anything in person. I don't plan to do anything in person. And
okay.
It's because this is kind of a far-flung community now. So.
Okay. Okay, and I do get your email, so
Okay.
I just wasn't quite sure if you were going back to doing in person or if it would be Zoom, which is, as you can see, would be very convenient.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think Brian's gone. Oh, no, he's still there. All right. That's all I have, unless people have questions, or you guys are welcome to network. No. All right. I will
Good weekend.
take care. I will sign off here. Everyone have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys. Thank you.